What up, traders? What up, investors? Ken here from Dyslexic Investor, and yes, I'm wearing my finest flannel here. It's a very cold day here in Virginia. It's like 32 degrees outside. I'm inside with my beautiful blue lumberjack outfit. I don't know what you want to call it, but we're ready to chop some wood. Let's go ahead and just get into it here. We're going to be looking at Facebook. Someone, most likely a large hedge fund or a very large trader that has a lot of discretionary cash, making a very enormous trade on Facebook, going out all the way into February 19th of 2021, buying the $265 call for about total cost of 7,500 contracts of, I think it was like $24.1 million. So that's a pretty large bet. We'll be jumping into the options chains. Then we'll be looking at the charts, giving some support and resistance lines, and just kind of having a ball with it and really looking at what we could be seeing and looking at the chart, looking again, not having a crystal ball to see the future, but looking at some potential psychological levels that we've seen of support and resistance before using the Fibonacci retracements, and as well with a combination of some of the moving averages as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the charts here. So now we're jumping into the charts, looking directly at the options chain first here with, again, that highlighted call basically a little bit after noon today on the East Coast Standard Time, looking at that 19 February 2021 $265 call, 7,500 of those contracts going for an average or total price of $32.95, so around a little about $3,300 per contract. And of course, if we create a duplicate on order, you basically get nearly $25 million cost of making this play. So if we open up that particular options chain here, we see that very large order still sitting there again on the volume that already had a lot of large accumulation of open interest at that level. You also see a lot of open interest around 280, and another significant level, which is I found a little strange, was actually the $310 level. I thought the $300 level would have a significant more amount of volume than the 310, being a little bit more of a round number. Once we jump into the charts, you can really see that $300 level has been a very priced overhead resistance previous before in the last coming months. So again, what is the underlying process of what this individual is doing? This is definitely looking like a potential a bullish bet on just, in my opinion, of someone buying just straight calls. And again, they could be hedging a bet. They could be going short the stock. We don't know the full the idea, what the thought process or the trade idea from this individual, but we can just see on what is being purchased via the options chain, which again is a pretty large outlier on any kind of option chains when you're purchasing well over 7,000 contracts in one particular call option, not spreading it across, just like, you know what, we're putting it all on black and just throwing it all in, and just, you see all those, the poker stars or whatever in the movies, they just say they push it all in. This is, again, I don't know if this guy's going all in. Probably not. This is most likely an intelligent, I say intelligent, but a person that's a hedge fund that's very well off. Again, $24 million, $25 million is not a small chunk of change, even in the market that we're looking at here, especially on one particular order. So jumping into the chart now, looking at FB, this thing, again, we talked about that 300 level kind of being some overhead resistance here. That we haven't seen that $300 level basically since, what is this, like almost August to September timeframe. We haven't even seen that really, that 300 to 305 level. We've kind of just been bouncing around it. We kind of call it like the ping pong kind of method, and just kind of no line in sight of like the sense of like a direction. And you can call it a kangaroo market, you can call it chop, whatever you want to call it. This is basically the underlying stock prices is kind of fluctuating in between some very key levels. As you can see here, with, again, we had that somewhat of that sell-off in basically the September time frame, the beginning of September, basically went from that 303 to 304 all the way down to that initial low that we're seeing for this past trend. Basically, kind of, we're having a marker here. We're actually going to move this up just a hair and move it around the 275. I kind of want to move it up a little bit here more, please. There we go. There we go. Let's call it 273. Again, that's somewhat close there. I'll play with that in a little bit. But with that movement, we've seen kind of some of the consolidation, a little bit of a higher lows, lower highs, whatever you want to call it, with some higher lows coming in here, kind of still kind of hitting and bouncing around, testing that 258 level. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg's been on Zoom calls or whatever the Senate uses or the House of Representatives uses for the hearings. I think it's not Zoom. I think they might use Skype, whatever. They're using a rotary phone to make those calls. But with that, again, being slammed on Facebook's ethics to what they're doing, how they're tracking people and how they need to be regulated, things like that. But we're seeing a lot of ping pong around because of that, most likely, because again, these larger tech companies have had, no lack of better words, they have zero to no oversight. But again, without going into political kind of things, on the chart here, we're looking at the 21 EMA, which is that really thick yellow line here, and seeing that potentially creating somewhat of support here. We've bounced off it a couple times. Again, we came down to the 50-day. It looks pretty sloppy here because all the spaghetti lines kind of crisscrossing here and just not really any really a distinctive view. The only thing is the trend is still kind of going upwards because, again, we're seeing those higher lows that we're seeing kind of come into place here. Some initial targets are going to be looking at to really see that breakout going through is around that 290 level. So 290 to 291 is a very key target. What we've seen hit basically 2 times solidly and not been able to really get out of that range and kind of coming right back down, hitting the 21 EMA, 34 EMA, and just kind of bouncing around again, hinting the ping pong method. Looking for this potentially to kind of consolidate here some more. With the drop off in volume, which I kind of like to see at times, especially before a stock makes a very large move. Again, they already had earnings. So earnings is out of the way. There is some other catalyst that this individual is betting on or knowing about or whatever on this play again. So potential overhead, we're going to be looking at, we're going to create an alert there to keep track of that around the 291 to 292 level. And some downward support, again, we talked about that, around 275. So that's the level kind of in between the 34 and 50 SMA there lines there to potentially see that support. Again, that's also the previous high to low on this trend, which is its 50% retracement. So it's another key level to kind of look at on how people trade and in and around that zone. So basically looking for Facebook to kind of ping pong around the 290 down to 275 until we get a break higher or lower, again, to the low side, 274, 275, that breaks, we could potentially looking for 267 to even 265, and then to the upward momentum, which I'm more of a bull on this one, so we're going to give it the old, if you haven't seen this before, I've been blessed and I have magical stress balls, and I have a bull, and I also have a bear. So depending on what I squeeze and how I squeeze it, I can actually manipulate the market. So yeah, so we're going to give it a little 1, 2, 3 pumps with the bull there to potentially see that break 291. Again, all kidding aside, I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but this is going to take a little bit of time because, again, these options are still all the way into February, so that's quite a ways away. There's a lot can happen in that time frame. Looking at these particular targets again, if we do get a break above that 291 to 292, the next target is going to be its previous high, so around 304 to 305. With the longer dated targets, if this trend wants to continue and we get the moving averages nicely move up to the right-hand corner of the chart, we're going to be looking for 321 to even 342 to be considering more of a run up into its next earnings report. So this is something to be mindful about of some of these key targets, because again, these targets could be very high profitable targets once we hit those levels. So be very careful out there, folks. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord. We always have some fantastic conversations going on there. We have fantastic memes always talking about, always sharing different various ideas, and we're looking at the charts and so forth. Completely free, no obligations. Down in the description below, please check it out. Again, guys, thank you, and have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace!